I'm Doriana.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are Whiskey Newbs.
And what does it look like we're doing this week?
Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
Almost said Whiskey Trace.
Whiskey Trace. So this is a big favorite of a lot of people's. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey made by the Buffalo Trace Distillery. We actually have some info this week, so we can actually talk about stuff. But first, before we do anything, let's pour a little bit right quick. As you can tell, this is not an unopened bottle. This is pretty much a normal drinker for us. This is a good go-to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say this is a good go-to. Ooh, clink. Mm-hmm. This week we're going to try something a little different. I'm going to pour a little more for each of us because we're going to drink a little bit, tell you our tasting notes and our thoughts, and tell you what smells we get, and then we're going to do a little drop of water, and I'll show you my special technique. Oh yeah, special technique with our special straw here. This is
from Finn's. It's like the best straw ever.
Yeah, so. It's a special whiskey straw. So, all right, so Buffalo Trace, their distillery, they started back in 1775. This was before they even had a distillery set up.
Oh. In, is that Prohibition times?
That's way before Prohibition times. We'll get to that.
No, I'm going to be learning a lot more about history.
Their first distillery was built in 1812 by Harrison Blanton. So they were distilling before they even had a distillery, which probably meant they were doing it in somebody's in their bathroom or in their basement or something.
I always talk about that.
And if anybody recognizes that name, Blanton, it's because it's a pretty famous whiskey and it's owned.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of that.
You remember the one with the little horse on top of it?
Yeah, that's right.
It was to commemorate him.
And one of those was just nearby. What was that again? The one with the horse on it?
Just a good old Kentucky bourbon whiskey. It's just it's a single barrel, and it's.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, Blanton. Yeah, Blanton.
That's interesting.
So first off,
like
kind of get that molasses, that little spice.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't know if I said so in the first video, but one way to smell, one way is to have a glass like this, tulip glass, because the alcohol, it doesn't have as much, of a hole at top to escape. I'm sure I've mentioned that more than one time. But also the fatness of the glass here gives, I can't remember, but I think it allows the alcohol vapors to stay down in here. But
did I mention legs in the last one? That's another thing people look for, is like when you tilt it, you can see some of these whiskeys have more legs, and that's a wine term too.
But you know what that comes from? The oil content.
Oh, okay.
How much it clings to the glass.
Okay. So it's probably the same with wine then. It's the oil content, I guess.
I'm sure the grapes and stuff have some oils in them.
Yeah, it has a little more burn after we tasted some Jameson not too long ago, the other day, and this is almost smoother.
Yeah, it's definitely smoother. This is a good old Kentucky. This is just when I think of a across the board bourbon whiskey, this would probably be what I would suggest that people say. I want something that, I've had Jack Daniels, I've had Jim Beam, I've had things like that. I want something that is like the personification of America whiskey, and I would probably say this is it. There's a lot of good stuff that we've got here.
Yeah, because Monkey Shoulder is something that's a little more of a, I don't know, fermented taste if you put it on that. And then the Ardbeg is like, that's a whole nother tier.
And those are also from Scotland, so
exactly.
they are not American whatsoever.
So you can definitely taste the American history in these types that are. Well, I mean, they're not all American. I don't know actually about that.
So to go back to this, so after they started their distillery back in 1812, they later sold it to a George T. Stagg, which is also another famous bourbon whiskey. Stagg Jr. They were actually allowed, the Bourbon Trace Distillery, they were allowed to stay open during Prohibition. Nice. We'll leave that in. They were allowed to stay open during Prohibition to sell alcohol for medical purposes. That's basically a fancy way of saying, I went to my doctor and I said, oh, and I can't sleep at night. And he's like, well, I've got just the thing for you. Some good old American whiskey. So they stayed open during that whole period where most distilleries had to close or sit on their stock for however, I should have done more research on Prohibition. We'll do that later.
I wonder how many really pricey alcohol barrels came out of that time.
You'd be, yeah.
So it's interesting. It's like sitting on stock that you don't know is going to go up. Or maybe they did know. I don't know.
So, and Buffalo Trace, their distillery, this is not the only thing that they make. Along with Eagle Rare, back here, this is also this is a 10-year aged, not version of this, but it comes from different barrels, probably from a different place in their barrel warehouse. But they make things like Buffalo Trace, Colonel E.H. Taylor, Eagle Rare, George T. Staggs, named after the person who bought the distillery, Stagg Jr., which is something that I'm looking for right now, and I can't find it anywhere within 50 miles. W.L. Weller. Blanton's the one that we were talking about, named for the person that built the first distillery. And they also are known for their Pappy Van Winkle line. And remember the ones that I was telling you were going for 6,000, 7,000.
Wow.
Depends on how old it is. But yeah, that is their premium line. And we don't have too much information on their mash bill for this.
Secretive information.
Yeah, they like keeping it, but it's estimated that at least 10% of this has rye in it, and probably the rest of it is corn. There might be a little wheat in there, but it's actually a little low rye-wise for bourbons. Bourbons typically have about 12 to 15% rye in them, whereas this has only got estimated, it could be higher, estimated to be 10% rye. There's a lot of corn in there. What are you getting from it taste-wise, though?
I feel like I remember mentioning apricot about something, and this is like giving me that apricot taste again. It's like fruity. It's like fruits and nuts.
Yeah.
This was nice because I feel like we were talking about eating, what to eat with it, like in personal conversations, and I just feel like this is one of those that could be with anything.
And
like
see,
most of these can be with anything, but this really, like, if you were on a picnic, you'd be able to have this.
Oh,
if you were at a dinner, you'd be able to have
hamburgers,
this.
hot dogs, a steak. You just want to eat some
put this
cheddar
in coffee.
cheese. Try with a little bit of water. So what you do is you just get a little bit of water, and then you go boop, and you get a drop, and then boop, and you get a drop. All right. Then you can actually see. I don't know if we
kind of missed it.
Yeah, we might have missed it, but you can
fast.
see the water diffuse away from the oils and such. This one might not actually have too much oil in it.
It smells so much sweeter instantly.
Yeah, because the water, what it does is it just starts to break apart the molecules in the alcohol instantly. It pushes the alcohol and the ethanol away from the the smells that are there that are infused to the molecules. So instantly, after you put a drop of water in there, you're going to get things that break away, and yeah, it got so much more floral.
It's funny because it almost feels spicier afterwards, but not in the way that it like burns, in the way that you're just tasting more spicy. It's
still really getting that sugary molasses, a little brown sugar.
When I put perfume on, that was a bad idea. It's like mixing it.
Yeah, I don't know. It does. I can't really.
But this is like a floral whiskey, anyways.
When you have your nose in there, I'm not gonna smell any perfume or anything.
It's very like almost peachy. I don't know if it's because we've been eating more peaches, but it's like the apricot peach kind of flavor in there.
Mm. Yeah, this is just a classic sipping whiskey. You want to, I mean, we haven't tried it yet, but I think you put a big old ice cube in here and you swirl it around, or maybe you put this in the freezer and you let it get good and cold.
Because some of these I don't know if they would be way better with ice. Like the Ardbeg is pretty good without ice. Like it's kind of good and warm.
And I haven't even tried that with a drop of water yet.
But this, I feel like, is exactly what I think of when you have those huge, giant cube ice, like the professional ice. This is what you would want with that. It's like apple juice. Oh my gosh, this mixed with apple juice would be really good if you're into that kind of thing. I don't think I've ever mixed apple juice with that.
No, I haven't tried an apple juice anything.
But this would go good with it, I feel.
Because any apple smell that's there or taste, because you can sometimes get that little hint of green apple, something that's an unripened apple, or you can get that from these.
Yeah, like a hot toddy kind of.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, obviously.
So this one's sitting at 45% alcohol by volume. So if you want one that's just right down the middle of the road, it's got some buffalo balls on the front of it. It shows you that's America right there. I mean, where else are you going to get buffalo balls at on the label or something? And I believe that's Kentucky on the... Isn't that Kentucky there?
I don't know.
Gotta be.
I'm not the one. I was not good at pointing out those shapes.
This is just a good sniffer. That's one I could smell for a while.
I like this because out of the light ones, if you call it lighter, it's like more flavorful. Yeah. And it's like you just want to take your time with it.
This is just one I like coming back to.
This is just like, I don't know, gets down real fast.
Oh yeah, we've got a bunch of good stuff here, but I mean, we come back to this one all the time.
But this is nice to take it slow. Like Suntory, I want to drink fast for some reason. This I want to drink slow. Ardbeg, I barely take the big sips.
Yeah, no, that's a sipper. You want to? I mostly smell that. I'm not even.
And also with this 1792, I feel like I don't want to drink that fast.
Just want to enjoy it, sit there with it for a while. But yeah, we got what, 5 subscribers. The first video.
That was exciting.
I know most of those are friends and family, and even so, we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for taking the time to sit down and watch a video about us talking about whiskey. I wouldn't imagine anybody would want to hear us ramble on about it, but I'm sure it's good in the background. Just put it on, sit down and watch us. I mean, what are we doing mostly? Just sniffing. So. And yeah, happy 4th of July. I thought there'd be more fireworks in the background, but I hadn't heard any. That's why we closed the window.
They have been going off on and on. I hear more kids screaming. Kids have to let it out.
But with that, and you got any other questions? Anything else to add? Well, I guess with that, that's the end of our second episode. Buffalo Trace. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you the price point. We get this for about $24 at our local alcohol store here in Oregon. So this is just a great buy. I mean, I'll always have this stocked up on the shelf, ready to go. Anytime I empty a bottle, I'm going to go get another one, just because you don't get more classic of Kentucky bourbon whiskey, in my opinion. But cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
And remember to love yourself.